When you begin learning Hebrew, it can be intimidating because nothing looks familiar. The alphabet itself is unrecognizable, even alien. My goal is to demonstrate to you that Hebrew is not as strange as it first appears. We'll see this by observing some basic features and differences between alphabets you already know. First, let's look at the difference between a letter name, its sound, and a symbol. The name is the label that we use to refer to a letter. The sound is what we hear when a letter is spoken in a word, and the symbol is a character. It's what we see when the letter is written. Now, the sounds of a language can be divided into consonants and vowels. Here, a blue color denotes a consonant, and an orange denotes a vowel. Consonants are sounds that are made by temporarily blocking the air passing through your mouth. Vowels are sounds that are made without blocking the air. The sound is made with an open mouth. In English, one vowel symbol will denote multiple vowel sounds. For example, this symbol here can denote 3 different vowel sounds. For example, as in about, It can be nasal, like an ant, ant, or it can be as in as in awesome. 3 different sounds, 1 symbol. Spanish has the same number of vowel symbols, but fewer vowel sounds. Each vowel symbol only represents 1 sound, a, e, here it is, o and u, 5 different sounds. In English, normally 1 consonant will represent 1 sound, but there are cases where 1 symbol for a consonant will represent 2 sounds. For example, the letter C can be K as in cat, K as in cat, or S as in center. Now let's look at the symbols. So symbols that are used to represent a sound, those symbols are arbitrary. They have no inherent meaning. It's just a standardized way of graphically representing an audible sound. In fact, there are languages spoken today which have no system of writing at all. This is the major task of linguists who work with primitive people groups. The translator must learn the spoken language and then develop a written alphabet to represent the sounds of that language. In some languages, a symbol can be modified to represent a variation of the sound. For example, in Spanish, the letter N, when it appears with a tilde on top of it, becomes a new letter called ñ, and it represents a different sound, like the niet is in the Russian word no. Let's look at the names of the letters. So the English names of the letters are little more than the sound that letter makes. A, B, C, D, E. There's an exception down here. We have W, and double is an actual English word, but the rest of the names of the letters are just sounds, basically. In Spanish is similar. Spanish, most of the names of the letters are just sounds, but there is like W for double V, or X or Griega, but for the most part, they're just simply the sounds that are made by that letter. Greek, on the other hand, has names for the letters, and the names of those letters are actual words in the Greek language. You may be familiar with the phrase the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. Those are actual Greek words. And similarly, the names of the letters for the Hebrew alphabet are also words in the Hebrew language. Now you'll notice that some of the Hebrew letters have multiple spellings in English, like ALEF and ALEPH. This is the result of what is called transliteration. So transliteration means using the letters of one language's alphabet to represent the sounds of a different language's alphabet. For example, let's look at Greek. The first letter of the Greek alphabet, alpha, A-L-P-H-A, that's not the name of the Greek letter. The name of the Greek letter in Greek is actually alpha, lambda, phi, alpha. That's the name. ALPHA is the transliteration of alpha, lambda, phi, alpha from Greek into English. And just so happens that there's universal agreement among Greek students on how you spell those letter names in English. That's not the case for Hebrew. As you can see here, in Hebrew, the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, uh, when it's spelled its name, consists of 3 Hebrew letters, Aleph, Lamed, Fe. How do you transliterate that into English letters? Well, there's a couple different ways. You could spell it A-L-E-F or A-L-E-P-H. Both of them are correct. The spelling depends on the preference of the person who writes it and how they think about representing the sounds of those letters in Hebrew. So in this list, where you see a parenthesis, those are showing alternate transliterations for the names of those letters. Notice that in Hebrew, there are 5 letters that have more than one name. They have 2 names for that letter. This is an indication that that letter pronunciation can be changed. In Hebrew, it's done by adding a dot. Now, Hebrew's not unique in this because we saw that with the Spanish ñe. By adding the tilde over the N, it changed from na to ñe. Same thing with Hebrew. Adding a dot would change whether this particular symbol is pronounced with a b or a v. So now that we have all 4 of these languages side by side, let's do a couple more comparisons. We can see that different languages use different symbols to represent the same sound. So in English, that symbol, upper and lowercase d, represents the sound d. Same thing in Spanish. In Greek, these are different symbols. An upper and lowercase delta represents the same sound d. In Hebrew, this symbol represents the same sound. Different symbol, but same sound. You'll also notice that in English, Spanish, and Greek, there are upper and lowercase letters. There's no difference in case between Hebrew. Hebrew only has one symbol, no distinction between upper and lowercase. You'll also notice that English, Spanish, and Greek have symbols for consonants and symbols for vowels. In Hebrew, the letters represent consonants only. Vowels are handled separately using a system of markings called nikud, and there are 17 different vowel markings that you would learn separately that are attached to the symbols for the consonants. Another obvious difference is that each language has a different number of symbols in the alphabet. English has 26, Spanish has 30, Greek has 24, Hebrew has 22. But you'll notice that the names of the letters in Greek and Hebrew, they start out and they sound very similar. Alpha, beta, gamma, aleph, bet, vet, gimel. And those root letters, L, PH, LF, LF, you can see that there. Beta, BT, those consonants, and then BT for bet. Gamma, GM, gimel, GM. So why is that? Because Greek is an Indo-European language and Hebrew is a Semitic language. They're very different languages, but their alphabets, the symbols used to represent their sounds, derive from a common language called Phoenician. The Phoenician alphabet itself is derived from other languages in which the symbols depicted actual physical objects. Now that's a very interesting story, but it's not required to know in order to learn Hebrew. So in conclusion, you've learned the surprising fact that English and Spanish alphabets, having developed through Greek, actually have the same common ancestor as the Hebrew alphabet. Hebrew, like other languages, has consonants and vowels, but the vowels are denoted not as alphabetical letters, but as markings attached to the letters. The sounds of English and Spanish alphabet are intuitive to you because you've spent your entire life using them, but they have no inherent meaning, and the Hebrew alphabet is the same. All that's required to learn the sounds of the Hebrew alphabet is practice. So treat learning the Hebrew alphabet like you're learning a secret code and have fun with it.